All right, guys, today we're going to be going over solving inequalities by addition or subtraction and multiplication. Let's take the sheet side out that says addition and subtraction first. We have a plus 4 is less than 9. So we're going to take negative 4 and put it to both sides so we can get rid of that 4. That leaves a by itself. The symbol stays the same. And 9 minus 4, well, that's going to be 5. So a is less than 5 will be our answer. Number 3 says negative 4 is greater than or equal to k minus 2. We want to get k alone, so we're going to add 2 to both sides. And negative 4 plus 2 is going to give me negative 2. And we have greater than or equal to k. Number 5 says n minus 9 is greater than or equal to 5. So we're going to get rid of the negative 9 by adding 9 to this side. And that means we get to add 9 to this side. And now I have n by itself. The symbol stays the same, greater than or equal to. And 9 plus 5, well, that's going to give me 14. Next is number 7. It says negative 19 is greater than x minus 11. Well, to get rid of negative 11, I have to add 11. And of course, that means I'll have to add 11 to my other side. Negative 19 plus 11 is going to give us a negative 8. And we know that is greater than x. I'm going to leave the evens for you. Let's go on to the rest of our page. Where it says solve each inequality, graph the solution set on the number line. Well, if I go to 8 is smaller than p minus 1, well, I have to add 1 to this side, which means I'll add 1 to this side. That's going to give me 9 over here, is smaller than p. So I go to 9. I have to remember to go ahead and circle it because I am not including 9 in my answer. There's no equal sign here. And since I know that 9 is smaller than p, that means p is greater than 9. So that means my line and arrow will go this direction. Going to number 11, it says 1 is greater than x plus 6. Well, I'll have to subtract 6 from this side to get rid of that and get x alone. If I subtract 6 from one side, it means I have to subtract 6 from the other side. Well, now I have x by itself. This symbol stays the same. And 1 minus 6 is negative 5. So I'll go to negative 5. It is not equal to, so again, I'll put a circle. And I know that negative 5 is greater than x. So that means x is less than negative 5. So I'll put my arrow pointed to the left. Number 13 is next, and it says that b minus 3 is smaller than or equal to negative 8. Well, to get b alone, I have to add 3 to this side, and that means I'll add 3 to this side. And that gives me negative 8 plus 3. That's going to give me a negative 5. But this time our symbol is less than or equal to. So we have b is less than or equal to negative 5. That means I'll go to negative 5. And since it's less than or equal to, I have to shade in my dot. And if I shade it in, then I realize that b is less than negative 5, so my arrow is going to be pointed in this direction here. Okay, let's move on. It says, write an inequality and solve each problem. If I have number 15, it says 2 less than a number is less than 9. Well, 2 less than a number. That's, see, 2 less than a number would be n minus 2. Is less than, the less than symbol, the number 9. So now I have to add 2 to both sides in order to get n alone. And that tells me that I will have n by itself. This cancels out, and I will have less than 11, because 9 plus 2 is 11. Let's go with number 17 next. The sum of a number and 8 is more than 4. Well, the sum of some number, that sum means adding, so I'll add n to 8. This is more than, which means the greater than sign, 4, which means 4 will be on the other side. So now I have to say that I get to get n by itself, which means I will subtract 8 from this side, which means I'll subtract 8 from this side. 4 minus 8 is negative 4. And since I keep my symbol the same, I have n is greater than negative 4. All right, we're going to go to the next page where we'll do multiplication now. Number 1 says I have 3v is greater than 12. So I will have to divide 3 from 3v. And if I divide 3 from one side, I have to divide 3 from the other. Now I have v all by itself, and I have greater than, and 12 divided by 3 is 4. So I have v is greater than 4. So if I go to my number line, I don't have the greater than or equal to, so I will have to go to 4 and circle it. And since v is greater than 4, okay, then I know that my line is going to be pointed in this direction. All right. Let's go to number 3. Number 3 says that I have negative 12 is less than or equal to negative 3g. Well, I have to divide negative 3 from g. But remember our rule, our special rule that says if I divide or multiply by a negative sign, I have to switch my inequality symbol around. That means negative 12 divided by negative 3 will give me 4, but I'll have to switch my symbol around to show that it's greater than or equal to instead of less than or equal to. And then I have g by itself. So now I have, well, I have to go to 4. I'll have to shade in my dot because it is greater than or equal to. And then I have to remember that g is actually smaller than 4. So if g is smaller than 4, I'll make my arrow this direction to show that it's smaller than 4. All right, let's go to number 5. If I go to number 5, it says that a is multiplied or divided by 2, excuse me. A divided by 2 is greater than negative 4. Since I have my denominator of 2, I'll have to multiply this side to 2, so I can go ahead and cancel them out because 2 over 2 equals 1. But whatever I multiply to one side, I have to multiply to the other side. So I have negative 4 times 2, and since I didn't multiply by a negative number, my inequality symbol stays in the same position, and negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. So now I'll go to negative 8. I'm going to put a circle here and not shade it in because it does not equal negative 8. And since a is actually greater than negative 8, I can put my arrow this direction. Number 7 states that I have negative 14 is greater than or equal to 7n. So I'll have to divide 7 from 7n so I can get n by itself. Since I'm not dividing or multiplying by a negative number, my symbol stays the same. And now I have 7 divided into negative 14 as well, because whatever I do to one side, I must do to the other. And negative 14 divided by 7, well, that's going to be negative 2. So I go to negative 2, and since it is greater than or equal, I'm going to shade it in. And I have to remember that n is actually smaller than negative 2. So my arrow is going to go in this direction. Let's do these. Solve each inequality. Check your solution. Well, it states here that 3a is smaller than negative 16. So I have to divide 3 from 3a so I can get a by itself. I didn't divide or multiply by a negative number, so my symbol stays the same. Whatever I divide from one side, I must divide from the other. which makes negative 16 divided by 3. Well, if I do this with my calculator, and I take negative 16 and divide it by 3, I'm going to get negative 5.3 repeating. So this will be negative 5.3 repeating. Now it says to check my solution. If I check my solution, I have to plug it back in. That means I have 3 times negative 5.3 repeating is smaller than, let's see, negative 16. Now here's the issue with this. Remember, this is what the number is. We have to come up with something that is less than this number. So we're just going to go ahead and put negative 5 here. Because negative 5, well, actually, no, that negative 5.3 repeating is actually less than negative 5. We'll have to go with negative 6. So let's take this, and we'll erase it and put negative 6. And if I do, that's going to give me negative 18 is less than negative 16. And that's absolutely true. Because on my number line, I will be traveling even farther in the negative area. All right, let's go with 11. 11 says m divided by 2 is smaller than 4. Well, I have to multiply both sides by 2, so I can get 2 over 2, which leaves m. And whatever I multiply to one side, of course, I multiply the other. And now I have 4 times 2. I did not divide or multiply by a negative number, so my symbol stays the same. 4 times 2 is 8. M equals 8. But remember, once again, we have to show that it works. So I have to think of what number, okay, it says m is smaller than 8, smaller than 8. So we're going to have to go ahead and find a number smaller than 8. Well, 7 is smaller than 8. So let's try 7 in place of m. And we'll put 7 divided by 2. And we'll say, let's see, is smaller than 4. And is that true? Well, 7 divided by 2 is 3.5. And 3.5 is smaller than 4. So that is absolutely correct. All right, number 13. It says negative 6d is smaller than or equal to negative 6. Well, if I go ahead and I divide negative 6 from here, I have to remember I'm dividing by a negative number, so that's going to change my symbol around. Negative 6d divided by negative 6 equals d. And negative 6 divided by negative 6, well, that's going to equal 1. So d is smaller than or equal to 1. Smaller or equal to 1. So we need a number that's smaller than 1 or equal to 1. Well, we could use 1 because we could see if it's going to be equal to it. And let's put that back in our problem. That would be negative 6 times 1 is going to be greater than, or sorry, we have to go by the original problem, is going to be smaller than or equal to negative 6. And is that true? Well, absolutely right, because this would be negative 6, and we can say that it is equal to negative 6. And that's all we've got for tonight. Good luck, and I'll see you in class.